Ayan. So magandang araw, nandito ho tayo sa Ateneo Dinaga. Ako si Elmer Soriano at nandito kasama natin si Prof. Rico who teaches dito sa Ateneo Dinaga at the College of Nursing. And also nagtuturo tayo ngayon, kaya tayo merong mga ganito, nagtuturo ng Bridging Leadership. No? So, at si Prof. Rico, actually, ang isang role niya dito sa Ateneo is formation. No? So we're interviewing him para lumalim yung understanding natin of what is the difference between leadership formation and say teaching anatomy to a student. No? Paano yun na iba para tayong nagtuturo ng leadership, mas mapasukan natin what is the heart or soul of a leader that needs to be engaged when we teach, when we're with students of leadership in a classroom.
Usually, because nursing is a discipline, it comes with it a set of knowledge that needs to be transferred.
Para pumasa sila ng board exam.
Yes, yun ang malinaw, ano? May nakakahon na yun. And it's the deliverables there is you really need to impart that, because at the end of the day, or rather 4 years, they will be taking the board exam and they will be tested according to that set of knowledge that has to be transferred.
Yes.
Knowledge and skills, but because it is a board exam, it should be more like knowledge. But because nursing is is a caring profession, we put a heart into the equation. There is something there that makes the student nurse more humane, in as he or she grows into the profession. That's where the similarity to formation comes in.
Leadership formation.
The formation comes in, rather, because when you go into leadership formation, you really start with the heart. The person should have a heart for it, because without the heart for it, it really cannot continue. So because you appeal to the person's sense of values, to the set of principles that govern the person, so that when he makes a response as a leader, the response is really, although it comes from a very personal space, the response is essentially for somebody else, for the bigger majority.
So paano mo yun ma-develop inside the classroom? Can you teach that in the classroom para paglabas niya, naging leader siya, mas may puso?
Actually, you can. It's just a matter of drawing it out from the person. Kasi the leaders, when they come naman to you for the training, they're basically, tao na. They're already there.
Oh, they're 20, 30 years old.
Some are even middle age. So, all you need to do is to draw out the stories. Yung pinanggalingan nila, the public, the personal self, and then the stories that emanate from there, and try to see the themes that is repeated throughout the history, the leadership history. And when you see the patterns that emerge and they realize those patterns, they themselves will have that realization na they are really cut out for that. And all throughout that history, they will see a pattern of themselves responding every so often to calls for transformation, especially events that require them to make a difference. Yung mga ganon.
So yun, nile-lecture ba yan? Or how do you, if it's stories, whose stories, and what learning methodology would you use in the classroom?
Because it's stories, it's really all about sharing. What you need to do is to jug, usually you say jug the memory. This time you jug the heart. You find ways wherein you are able to make an appeal to the persona, the self, and then ito ang lalabas. And essentially, when people talk about their story and they make it public, it's really about an affirmation of where they want to go. So I think the trick is make them affirm their own story, make it public, let them tell them as it is, and then from that story, make them arrive at certain conclusions or realization about what I've been saying, the patterns that keep repeating itself. And those patterns are actually those that will make the difference.
So, kung kunwari isang teacher, no? Sanay siya lecture lang ng lecture. Kasi kung kunwari, faculty sa College of Nursing, di per session, may lesson plan siya from the textbook, may chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Ano yung mindset of somebody who's attempting to draw out? Because that doesn't seem like teaching a textbook. Parang iba yung...
Actually, you can also make something of that sort. Para kang gumawa ka rin. Kaya lang, you don't really apply that per se to the student that for the leadership formation, your student in leadership formation. But as a teacher, you can actually make something like that. Ang difference lang is that you can do away with that and try to see what resonates in the history of in the story of the student of leadership. And that's where you will start. Sabi nga, you meet them where they are.
Mhm.
And when you meet them where they are, you draw out the story from where they're coming. And then try to bring them up. If you want to say about a theory about leadership, then that's the time that you really draw it up to a higher level. Let's say you validate the experience to a theory.
Ano yun? Cry sila sa classroom.
Well, crying is an emotional response. It is really a very spontaneous thing. And you know what? We are humans. We respond through tears.
Mhm.
And that is really something. I have yet to meet people who are not moved by tears, especially if it's a story that is sincere and authentic. So remember, I'm also a nurse, and we are actually taught not to be so emotional, especially because people die in the hospital, and we are always, in the forefront of giving care, and sometimes they die on us. So we're actually taught na
To be emotionally detached.
yes, to be compassionate, but not to be emotionally detached. Otherwise, who will be objective there? But it doesn't mean that because you do not cry or you do not shed tears, you cannot feel what the other person is feeling. So, if, let's say, for example, a student of leadership is telling me a story about how his father influenced him as a leader, or how the hardship of his childhood brought him to certain motivation to make a difference in other people's lives, if I am listening to him, I will probably find some resonance in my own life story and identify.
So paano yan? In a classroom, nag-emote-emote na siya, and then you just give him the floor. Kung nagkukwento siya 5-7 minutes, then the rest of the class listens to his story.
That's where the discipline comes in. Kasi you have to process it, of course. It's not a storytelling thing per se na you just move people to tears and everybody comes home na may
Touchy feeling.
may touchy feeling lang You really have to process the entire thing And it's also a heavy thing if you do not process it, kasi some people will come out of the experience rather heavy. So
Sugatan,
'di ba? Or traumatized, 'di ba? Lalo na kung medyo mas grabe ang pinagdaanan, sabi nga ngayon, grabing hugot, 'di ba? So may mga ganung pagkakataon. Pero hindi mo talaga maiiwasan yung pag-usapan yung buhay ng isang leader. Kasi yun talaga ang yun talaga ang flavor ng leadership, yung story niya.
Question. So, anong masashare mong tips to teachers out there? Maybe they've been teaching engineering for 10 years or chemistry for 10 years. Nasanay silang very technical. Lecture ka lang ng lecture sa harap ng klase. Lahat sila nakikinig. No? Ano yung tips mo sa kanila so that they can rewire themselves and learn how to be teachers of leadership?
Well, number one, syempre is to listen. Yun ang
You have to listen more. Hindi lecture.
You have to listen more. Kasi lecture is, ikaw talaga, sa'yo nanggagaling yun di ba? But when you become a teacher of leadership students, or leadership formation students, this time, you have to be on the listening side first. You really have to listen to their story. And you really have to let them tell it as it is, like it is.
Kwentong buhay.
Yung kwento talaga, yung kwento nila. Because as they tell their story, the more it is pure, in its purest form, the more you can draw out the experiences. And it will lead you to a place where it's really, it's really spontaneous na yung realization. There have been occasions na ang insights nung nagkikwento have moved other people to arrive also at their own conclusions.
So habang nagkukwento ka, ako bilang classmate mo, may
Yes.
rin ako.
Oo. May may kabig ka na rin doon.
Mhm.
You may not own it because it is not your kwento, but may kabig ka.
Mhm.
So may share ka doon.
Mhm.
So at what better way to share that kind of emotion, lalo na kung ito ay talagang totoo, authentic, when people make kabig for that one, from the sharing that you have given.
Mhm.
Another practical tip is, syempre, natural dahil teacher, kasanay ka sa lecture, you have to do away with space, yung barriers na naglalagay dyan.
So wag ka dun sa lectern na...
Bumaba ka.
Bumaba ka.
And then, again, I will say, meet them where they are. So, kasi it will help you also, lalo na kung sanay ka talaga na yung discipline mo ay talagang lecture lang ng lecture at komportable ka ng rostrum and PowerPoint and pointer.
Kasi sila malayo.
At
Makinig kayo sa akin.
oo, kasi ang laki-laki naman ng screen, bumaba ka. Do away with the screen.
Mhm.
Kasi if you will recall nung time nung kabataan, di ba may uso na ng kwento, yung storytelling, may mga Lola Basyang and all. It's really a circle thing.
Circle.
It's really a
So
circle.
in terms of space, the more mukhang circle or mukhang U,
the better.
mas maganda.
Yes, the better. When you see each
Hindi yung
other's
nakahanay silang ganyan rows
Yes.
and then batok na lang ng nasa harap nila yung nakita nila.
Yes. Kasi kung the person who is telling a story is making himself vulnerable. He is really unmasking himself. Sometimes several layers. You know, when they register, you have a different perception of them, and then they tell their story, then they unmask themselves layer by layer. And that's where...
Akala mo siga-siga pero
Oo,
deep inside.
Yes, oo. Or akala mo pa naman, talagang, ang tawag nito, lalamya-lamya. Yung palang pinagdaanan, katumbas ng ilang karanasan ng ibang tao. Diba? So, you really have to get to know the story.
So the shape of the space, kung nakayu kayo, then it allows people to open themselves up more.
And mas maganda, unless talagang it cannot be helped, dapat control din yung number ng mga,
Wag 100.
Huwag naman 100. Kasi pag 100, na yan, parang iba na yan, prayer meeting. So, it really, kasi dapat ma-retain yung intimacy ng sharing.
So keep the groups small or break them up into small groups.
Yes.
Diba? Kung sobrang dami, then you break them up into small groups.
Or you put the sessions at a time wherein they are already more comfortable with each other.
Okay.
Definitely, you cannot ask them to have that, activity at a very early stage. Kasi parang panyan magpilit. Some people will try to embellish. Some people naman will try to keep some things. But we want the pure, authentic way of storytelling.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Rico.
Thank you, Doc Elmer.